so we are in Unit 3, Lesson number 8, Sprite Properties. So what we are going to look at today is how can we use Sprite Properties to change the appearance of a sprite on screen. So we want to change how the sprite is. Sometimes it might be too big, sometimes it might be too small, maybe it's the wrong color, maybe it's in the wrong position. How do we change sprite values so that they are what we want for our scene, for our animation, for our game? How do we change these things so that they are expressing what we want to express? All right, so we are going to start on bubble 1 with a prediction. Now, the only way to get a prediction wrong is to not do it. All right, so looking at the code below, predict where the bee sprite will appear. So, taking a look at this sprite, and if I turn on my grid, make this a little bit bigger, where do you think my sprite is going to appear? Somebody tell me in chat, or go ahead and unmute and let me know. Look at my code. Var B, create sprite 200, 200, B, set animation B, BX, BY, draw sprites. Where is my animation of a bee going to appear on the screen, ladies and gentlemen? What do you guys think? Make a prediction. Somebody said A. Oh, yeah, I forgot it was multiple choice. My bad. The B is going to appear in the middle of the screen. Okay, so that makes sense because 200, 200 would be right here in the middle of the screen. That's where the B should show up because it's 200, 200. That's where we're creating the sprite. Awesome. When I hit run, let's see what actually happens. Well, you can see that the B is down here in the bottom right corner. So why is that? We are going to figure out why this is during today's lesson. But once you have your prediction done, and again, the only way to get a prediction wrong is to not do it. Make sure you go ahead and hit finish and continue. Now, just like yesterday, I might have to be resetting mine to the original settings because this is just my teacher account. So let me go back to the original version. And you do not have to do this because this is your hopefully first time through. All right, so it says Sprite Properties. Sprite Properties keep track of all of the information your program needs to know about a sprite, such as its size and its location. You can change the values of these sprites just like you do variables and see the results when your sprite is drawn to the screen. Do this. Run the program to see where the sprites appear. Change the X and Y properties of the paintbrush to move it onto the palette. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on my grid and I'm going to run the program. So my brush is over here and the paint palette is down here. So now I want to change my X, what did it say, X and Y? Yes, change the X and Y properties of the paintbrush to move it to the palette. Awesome. Okay, so my brush, I need to change my X and my Y for my brush to get this to go to the palette. Now, maybe you're not sure what numbers to use. That's why I love my grid, because whenever I hover over, I need to move this out of the way so you can actually see it. When I hover over the screen when the grid's on, and I think you can even do it when the grid's off. Yep, I like it with the grid on though. You can see under the reset button, you can see the numbers changing. That is giving me an X and a Y location. So I want my brush to be dipping into the blue. So that looks like it's about maybe 275 on the Y, 100 on the X, more or less. Let's see if that works out. So I'm going to go ahead and go 100 on my X, and I'm going to go 275 on the Y. This may or may not work. I don't know. But it's easy enough to try. Reset, run. Oh, that's not in the, I don't want it in the white. I want it up. So I'm going to have to go up a little bit on my Y. So let's go maybe like 260 95. I think the X location is got to go over a little bit. So let's try 120. Reset and run. I still need to go up a little bit on my Y. So let's go 250. Ugh, obviously not making big enough jumps. Let's go 230. All right, so it looks like it's dipping. My brush now looks like it's dipping into the blue paint. That's what I wanted, so that makes me happy. So my brush location on the X is 120. My brush location on the Y is 230. So you'll notice I created the sprite and then I determined later on where I wanted its location X and Y to be. Easy peasy. All right, so, and again, well, we'll show you where that is. So you have the sprite, sprite X, sprite Y. Again, anything that's red or pink is in the sprite box. Anything that is a variable would be in the purple box. Again, keep in mind that all of your toolbox tools are the same color as they appear over here. All right, so finish and continue. And again, I am going to have to reset this to the original version. All right, so sprites have a lot of properties. Check out the 2 new blocks in this activity and try them out for yourself. Notice that different sprites can use the same animation and still look different because of the properties. Run the program and see how rotation and scale blocks make the first 2 notes look different. Use rotation and scale on the last 2 notes to make them look different too. Okie dokie. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my grid and I'm going to run the program. So I want you guys to notice something. Every single one of these has a set animation to 8th note. They're all using the same exact animation, and yet they all look slightly different. So if I'm looking at, I have note 1, which is this first guy. I have changed the scale and the rotation. All right, so here is the rules. Here is the rules for scale. If you want to make it smaller, you need to use a number smaller than 1. So 0 point something if you're trying to make it smaller. If you want to make it bigger, then you need to use a number larger than 1. So maybe you want to go 1.5 or 2.0 or 3.7. So using scale, you're always going to use numbers that are smaller than 1, 0 point something, to make them smaller. To make it larger than the original animation, you are going to use numbers larger than 1. So like 1.7, 2.4, etc. and so forth. Okay? So it's asking us again to change the scale and rotation for the ones that don't have, for the third and fourth. So I am going to go into my sprite box. I am going to grab scale and I'm going to pull that in under note 3. I am going to grab rotation and I'm going to pull that in under note 3. So I've just added to lines 14 and 15 of my code. Now, I want this third note to be smaller. So I'm going to change this scale to 0. Let's go 5, because why not? So it'll be half the size. I am going to spin my rotation. Now, I want you guys to think in terms of math. If you go clockwise, then that is going to be a positive rotation. Remember, a full rotation, like turn it all the way around, would be like 180 degrees. So we are talking in terms of 180. If you want it to spin to the right, those are positive numbers. If you want it to spin left, like that second note, we are going to be using negative numbers. I want this thing to be almost upside down, because why not? And I want to spin it in the positive direction. So I'm going to go 120 degrees, because why not? Okay, the other thing you need to do is make sure you are using the correct name of your variable. My variable is note 3, not Sprite. So I'm going to change this word to note 3. And this is also going to be note 3. Because remember, if you created a variable called note 3 and created a sprite around it, then what you're going to have to do is make sure that is the name you're calling up. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit reset and run. And we'll see that my note 3 is now smaller than it was and spun around. We are going to do the same thing for note 4. Again, I am going to drag scale under into my line 18. I am going to drag rotation into my line under there. I'm going to change the names to note 4. Line 19, the code is going to get changed to note 4 as well. My scale, I still want these smaller because that scale is still pretty big, that note. But let's go to, I don't know, like 10%, so 0.1. It'll make it really small. And I want to spin this to the left. So that is going to be negative, oh, I don't know, let's say 45, because why not? Right? I have my name of my variable, scale, 0.1, make it smaller. Name of my variable, note 4, dot rotation, negative 45. It should spin to the left 45 degrees. Reset and run, and shabam-a-bam. There it is, a really itty-bitty tiny spun to the left. So now we can change the X location of our animations, the Y location of our animations. We can make them bigger or smaller using scale, and we can change the orientation using rotation, either left or right, positive or negative. All right, as far as you guys are concerned, at this point, you have your practice to do. So that for you guys is going to be bubble number 4, A and B. So you'll get those done on your own. And then you will get bubble number 5 completed as well. And bubble number 5 wants you to make all your food fit on the plate. Because when you run this, you can see that it's really gigantic and it doesn't fit on the plate. So your job is to make all of your food fit on your plate. And then, of course, as always, with the challenges, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is optional, but if you want to play with colors, if you want to play with new blocks, this is something that you can do to sort of investigate the code further. As always, if you have any issues or questions, please ask. But at this point, I am going to end the recording.